of Convo Fango. I'm your host, Angel, aka Horgo Problems, and today I am joined by the team from Sound of Violence. We have writer-director Alex Noyer. James might be joining us later, hopefully. Jaako Manninen, lead composer, and Robert Bravo, special effects. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. All right, tell us about what is Sound of Violence about.
It's the story of a killer who makes music through murder.
That is a log line if I've ever heard one.
I've rehearsed this.
It's first time. This is just right off the. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the story?
Absolutely. So just to expand a little bit, it's the story of Alexi Reeves, an artist that we follow, but her art has gruesome undertaking. She lost her hearing as a child and recuperates it in gruesome and traumatic conditions. But upon recuperating it, she rediscovers the sound that she was missing, and it happens to be the sound of flesh, and it triggers synesthetic reactions that that create a sort of high that she strives to recreate throughout her life. And it's an expansion on a short I made a couple of years ago called Conductor. And Conductor was a very sort of out of context, if you will, introduction to Alex's work, and we expanded on the character's journey because as we toured the shorts, all the questions and all the feedback we were getting was about her and who she is and how and what and why and where and what's next. So it all evolved from there. But as far as the original inspiration, it stems from a documentary I produced called 808, which was about the legendary TR-808 drum machine, which essentially revolutionized the sound of electronic music and hip hop. And sounds also I've rehearsed that. Essentially, so that drum machine took over my life for 5 years. So naturally, my next inclination was to decide that can I kill somebody with a drum machine? And that's where the short came from, that little light bulb.
That's awesome. And I love that you're marrying your different interests and you spent so long producing this documentary and then you're like, okay, now how do we make that horror? And then you did.
It's to be fair, I was just also, I had been working in documentaries for when it came out, it had been about 8 years, I think, between the first original doc and the release of 808. So I was a bit uninspired at that time with more documentaries, and I was looking for a change. And my wife looked at me and says, "You really need to get into what you always loved, which is horror." And as I was developing a few things, that light bulb of marrying, as you said, both is kind of just maybe was initially the closure I needed, but then it turned into something bigger.
Not just closure, it was a whole new opening to this whole new world.
It was a full-on transition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess we have your wife to thank for like all these traumatic images that are just gonna stay with me. I can see them right
blame.
now.
Or to blame. I leave to everybody to either thank her or blame her.
Okay. It's like a thank blame, she's like a hybrid in this. So were you guys all together on the short as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jaako composed the music on the short, the great experimental idea of turning flesh into notes. And Robert did the special effect, and I call him my blood wizard.
Robert the Blood Wizard. I like that.
I don't remember, but there was a brief moment when we didn't have access to the actor, and I actually had to puppet a fake corpse. So I was the blood wizard and the meat puppet guy. But it's funny because there's a couple of shots that they're not necessarily gore related, but you see the actor from off angles, and it's a big fake torso.
In the short, right? You're talking about the short, yeah.
Oh, in the short. Okay. Where can we watch the short? Is that available as well?
Oh yeah, it's on YouTube. If you type Conductor short,
Okay.
or Conductor and Noyer or any of the, you generally find it. It's on our Films YouTube channel, and it's also on a few of the festivals where we toured that we said, of course, you can put it out. And yeah, so it's widely available for your um, shock and hopefully pleasure as well.
It's a nice little
Actually,
primer for the
one
future.
review was very simply saying, "I it's a Sunday. I'm tuning in to watch a short that I rarely review. 6 minutes later, I'm gulping at my screen, screaming, 'Holy shit!'" So I think that review sets the tone.
Okay, what a review. Yeah, all
I liked it.
right.
I'm 12 years in to working in the industry, and between the story and the crew, that's still one of the best experiences I ever had. And we only pushed on that when we got to Send the Violence. This is a great team of people to be with.
Awesome. I love to hear that. That's great. Jaako, what was it like? Because, okay, so in addition to creating like the score that you would normally, the way that you would normally score a movie, like the music is so important in this, and the main character, she's a DJ and doing experimental things, so you have to also create as this character, and I'm guessing also layer in these experimental sounds and stuff. Like, what was that process like? How did you go about that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, even going into the short, the log line was, "It's a drum machine that kills people." So I was already okay. You got my attention now. And then with that one, we were kind of looking at trying to find like what kind of like a drum beat you could create from this device killing somebody. And when we kind of took the concept of a drum machine that kills people into a whole film with actual story and like people with like a story and backstory and history, it kind of became imminent that it can't ride just on that one. And it was like kind of like, okay, well, we have to know a few things. It's got to be credible. It's got to sound like somehow like even vaguely believable, and it's got to sound good, and it's got to kind of like feel like you got to believe that this person is really hunting for those sounds and creating something out of it. So we're kind of working almost backwards. Like some of the scenes we would create the kind of like the rhythm already at least, and then they would shoot using some of those sounds, but we would know that would come later in the film. So then we would create the final song, but with like, okay, well, we need these kind of elements. What would be an element that we could find from that scene, that murder, and then kind of going back, like reverse engineering while we're doing it on parallel. Like, okay, let's add this. This could be that sound, so that when you listen to the final song, you're like, oh, that was from that moment. That was from that moment. But then you're like, still got to sound like a song too. So it's like, like going back and forth and like doing versions between and trying to find that, like, so the essence without really being like, oh, well, this is just like noise. So it was really challenging, but in the best possible way, because like this is the kind of project you might, one would dream of, because it's riding on the music, it's riding on the kind of sonics, and the concept really rides or dies. If it's not believable, if it doesn't come through, then it's not working. So we definitely had to really have a really messed up, but I mean, I'm a filmmaker too, so we were able to think about it from a lot of angles, not just like the music, but also the filming part of it, and what can we film. And because I don't know, without giving too many bloopers, there are some instruments that are not typically known for something that creates a sound that will come from killing someone. And how do you get that sound translated into something that would kind of be audible and understandable in the song? But yeah, one of the most fun projects I've done probably ever.
I think for us, that was for me the joy, is that how on board Jaakko and Hannu, our producer, where with the idea of the instrument becoming weapons and the sound of flesh becoming music, and then tried to just kind of like, it was like kind of an equation set in front of us, or that I set in front of them rather, and then and just said, and they're just like, yeah, no, we're gonna crack this. And then in the feature, when I was like, okay, you remember what we did with the drum machine? Okay, here are other instruments I want to use to kill people, and there's always that little moment where Jaako looks at me like, "Are you possessed?" And 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 I say yes, but then the demonic thought might make sense. No, it's fun because like we and we brought Alexander Burke on board, who's more of an instrumentalist who then could work supporting Jaako with some of the instruments from some of the delivery, so that Jako's production can then guide all that, and it became this sort of workshop, this little shop of terror, but musically.
Yeah.
And it's just with inputs coming with and obviously in the mix, Jussi Tegelman as well. Just everybody wanted to crack the code and for it to work.
Yeah, we had like, we basically set up shop at Alexander's studio, and Alexander Burke's studio, and we just basically took hammers and knives and stuff and just took every instrument we could find and just like, oh, what does it sound like with this? Okay, let's that's not working. What about this one? Okay, and just like anything you can find, and just try and mix it and mash it, and kind of look at the images and look at the, like, what gives you that. I mean, it's almost like half doing Foley meets like composing, and even doing it before the actual shooting some parts. So you're kind of like imagining what it can be and what it could be. So
and then we pass the flag to Robert to say, so now we need to see what that would look like after.
Best thing of all this is during pre-production, while he was writing the script, every 2 weeks or so I'd get a phone call and I'd see it was him, and I'd be like, oh, do I pick it up? Yeah, what's up? And with like the most excited glee you've ever heard out of anyone, hey, can we do blank? I don't want, everything I say is gonna be spoilers, so there's gonna be a lot of me saying blanks. But I had this great idea. What do you think if we did this? And I sit there and I go, ooh, can we? Yeah.
We'll make it happen. Yeah.
I mean, that last scene especially, because it came out of a dream. Yeah. So this is one of the scenes that has no movie references. This is purely, follow your nightmares kind of thing.
Yeah, Alex, what are you eating for dinner at night, man? Like, that was a dream.
Obviously, goblin cheddar. Obviously.
Oh, of course, nothing but.
And yeah, I did a little drawing and I sent it to Bravo, and then he sent me another drawing of his, and I realized, yeah, we're in alignment here.
You got it was there.
but it was first of all, it was like, kind of, again, without getting into spoilers, it was like, so can we do that? And there was that little moment of hesitation, just like with Jaako. It's like, yes.
Oh, big or
I don't know
home.
how yet, but yes, we'll figure it out some way.
That's totally what it is. But that's kind of the great thing about this job, is it's always, if you've never seen it before, then there's always that, I have no idea how we're going to do this. There's a good chance it's going to be a disaster. But if it's not, it's going to be epic.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll get the chance to say this later. And in truth, this goes to all the talent. But in particular, the person in that scene that Alex was just talking about, such a trooper. Because this stuff isn't fun to survive in real life. Like, none of those prosthetics are comfortable, and pulled it off.
And it was a lot of appliances and prosthetics happening.
And it's so hard to edit myself because I'm a talker and I don't want to slip out any spoilers. Very heavy, the item that was being used, and so this person has this thing on them that's, it's awkward and there's no complaining, and it's hot. But yeah, massive compliments, and to this crazy man for dreaming it up.
Nice. Jaako, you mentioned kind of combining like composing and also Foley, and that's something that I was curious about as I rewatched it for the second time. Like, was that you doing all the Foley as well? Like, how did you get those sounds that you were going to incorporate into like the music of it?
Well, I would say like most of them was us plucking on weird stuff, like and creating them with at least as much authenticity as we could, like basically just imagining what it could be in terms of you know, when certain body parts are being chopped. That was definitely me. Even finding the timing, because the time they had played it, but it wasn't really to any specific timing, and then you'd have to like look at it and see, okay, what could be a melody that would go with this fingering, and then how would it sound like that it's creating the madness. So there was like a lot of those kind of things that I was definitely really working, spending hours of like trying to find something like, what could it sound like, what could it be, and going back and forth and editing myself on that video just to see, okay, now it's kind of there, and then maybe the editors would move them a little bit. So a lot of that was on most of it. There were some parts from the rhythmical stuff that actually Jussi brought in from some of his libraries, but yeah, most of it was created like looking at a picture and trying to find some organic item that would create that.
It's funny because it's actually the combination from Jaako and Alex and Omar to Jussi, and then to the Foley Farm, who also, you know, completed there. And it's just such a huge, for a small movie like ours, it's a big team to be focused just on audio. But I would say that's probably, and hopefully why it works, is that because the attention to details started, you know, that sort of, normally you would have this sort of, this is music, I'm only composing, and this is mix, and this is Foley. But the ramification, we're crossing paths and crossing wires so much that we had to make sure that everybody understood the undertaking of every sound to pay off. So there was this amazing synergy actually between all those sound departments, and I must admit, I'm you know, for somebody who's not a musician, I mean, I was a DJ for a moment, not a very good one. I was just good at knowing, I knew music, but I was not very good as a DJ. But the one thing though is that I demand a lot, perhaps, and it just like it. So I kept pushing, and I pushed Jaako, and I pushed Jussi, and I was like, and I'm so humbled and delighted with was how committed everybody was to it's a weird alignment to using non-musical sounds in musical settings for them to work for the non-musical ear, for the general audience. And this is where the credit to Jaako and to the whole team about how far they were willing to experiment to get that right and turn things again, shift the paradigm, turning instruments into weapons and flesh into music.
And it was awesome, and it had to be, because it's literally, it's not just like a piece in the background. It's the plot itself is dependent upon this, and then the music has to evolve also. It doesn't stay the same throughout, because this lead character is like kind of like a mad scientist. Like a Jaako, I imagine you like a mad scientist, just kind of like banging on things and being like, what sound can this make? What can this do? Because it's evolving as she's discovering new sounds and new things and incorporating it into her work, which means your work had to then evolve with the character.
Exactly. But the funny part was that most of it we had to kind of do before, at least to get the idea.
Right.
To kind of even show, is this gonna be a work? Like, is this even gonna work? You know, I can't even do it. So it was very like, it's so many parallel levels you're trying to operate and kind of look at the big picture. But I'm super stoked how it turned out, seriously.
Yeah, I was impressed. On the first watch, there was a point where I was just like, holy shit, like they really brought it with these sounds. And there's a scene where there's an audience to her latest like creations, and you see like the horror on their faces, and they're like, what the fuck are we listening to? But it's like, yeah, because you hear some weird shit layered in there, and like just somebody that you're casually acquainted with plays this for you, and you're gonna be like, you're probably gonna have some questions.
It was the first test screening of the film.
People are just cowering away. What the fuck is this?
Were you able to pull much audio off of our on-set antics? Because like when we were there was lots of squishing and slicing.
Not much, because we had so many things to operating at the same time. So I would say that most of it had to be created afterwards to be as well in tune and to have the levels right. But really I know what you're referring to. I know what you're referring to, and yeah, but no, it's a lot had to be rebuilt.
It matches really well. It does feel quite organic. Because honestly, when I
which side is Jaako, so I can point out to you.
When I watch it, I honestly had to stop and sit and be like, is that the audio of what we did on set, or is that Foley? And I couldn't tell. For some of it, I really did think it was us. So that goes to show, like, it fits really nice.
It was not an isolated squish, so they had to recreate the squish as an isolated piece and entity.
At least if I can reveal the one involving some of the last scenes for James's character, definitely those sounds like
yeah, shiver, spine tingling. One particular sound is really nasty. Yeah.
And there he is.
Hey, James!
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I have been trying to log in the entire time. I swear, I don't know what gremlins I have in my computer system, but it just said, waiting for the host to let me in the meeting since 1. So my apologies.
I'm sorry. Are we able to see your lovely face?
Well, not really. I'm on phone internet right now, so
that's why.
You can get that. I don't think it was allowing me to enter bandwidth wise.
You will have to see the movie to see his lovely face.
Okay. the disembodied voice of James Jagger, who plays Duke in the film.
I exist, therefore I am real.
It's like the voice of God. It's like, wait, what?
I'm just over here.
Well, James, welcome. It's nice to have you. It's nice to hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Nice
As it's a movie about sound, this is like fitting, though, I guess, you know? We can hear you.
Sound is more important.
I left him all but just a voice after it.
That's really why.
Yeah, the level of acting that went into this, I'm now disembodied and neither of my knees work.
It's very method.
Now,
I've got a triple heart bypass as well.
It's like the brain that wouldn't die, and it's just like this brain, and it's just James's like consciousness like speaking to us without a body.
Living in
now.
Zoom.
Yeah. He lives in the machine. He lives in the drum machine now.
Indeed.
So James, what drew you to this project?
Yeah, I mean, it was a couple of things really. I think I was definitely interested by the script, and I think I've kind of thought about this before. I was really curious because when you read it, it has so many of the kind of big violent moments of the movie are described so vividly and so well in the script that it brought a huge amount of curiosity to me. I just wanted to see, okay, this is how this is laid out. I want to see how this is going to actually go down on set and how we're going to make this a reality, because it's all good and well writing these wild things down on paper, but actually executing is quite a different thing. And that's where, I've got to give massive props to Robert for executing on so many of these wild scenes. But yeah, and also I was a fan of Jasmine work as an actor. I think I'd only seen her in The Leftovers, but I thought she was really compelling and captivating, and I was curious to meet her. And we all went for a nice get together and had a chat about the film for a couple of hours, and the rest is history, as they say.
Ta-da!
Yeah, I was just during that dinner, I was just sitting there, just going like. I just had a smile on my face. Everybody was getting along, chatting along, everything. No, it was great. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. James, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but you do have a very, there's elements of your performance that are very physical in this. What was that like?
Yeah, again, it was definitely an experience. And I think you want to try and whenever I've had to try and enact something physical like that, you want to bring like a maximum amount of energy and kind of visceral reality to the scene. Again, without giving too much away, I think the scene you're talking about takes place inside of a like a travel trailer. So
Yes.
it's kind of a small environment, and when you're trying to be large and violent and use a lot of movement, physical, let's say, not violent, then it's quite tricky to do that inside of a frame, inside of a small box, you know? So you just, you don't want to break everything on your first go, basically. So it was definitely a balance. And Daphne was fantastic at managing to bob and weave, She was like Muhammad Ali in there, like managing not to get sort of smashed in the head with anything or any body part.
Nice. So it's like you're being wild and free, but confined within a confinement within a confinement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very strange. It's like, okay, right, try not to break everything now. But no, it
was me outside shouting things.
Yeah, with literally the voice of God, like outside the trailer, just like banging on it. Being like, okay. But yeah,
You guys are all about the disembodied voices here. It's just like your guys' theme.
Yeah. Well, it definitely was an intense day. Let's put it that way. It was a lot of fun though, and like we said at the top, or kind of when I entered the top of the conversation, Alex comes up to me and whispers in my ear and explains to me about a sound effect that's going to happen later on, and I was just like, oh, it just gave me chills. It was definitely one of those days where you want to go home and have like a nice warm bath and just pet your dog.
I'm thinking of that scene and I'm like thinking about the sound and then describing it as, and then Alex came and whispered to me some of the sounds and I'm like, oh God, because I'm just thinking of the sounds that are in that scene and now picturing that being like whispered into my ear of this is what's going to happen to you as I'm getting ready.
Maybe this should be my new career. My new career should be creepy ASMR and just making weird horror
so
sounds.
You're basically spatchcocking the chicken and then
oh God.
Oh, this is I hadn't seen that. I hadn't heard that version yet, James. And now that's it. It's gonna.
I can't get that out of my head. Thank you, James.
Yeah, it's my new career. I am available for bookings of creepy and gruesome ASMR.
Hey, be careful because there's a market for that. So I'm just letting you know you're opening yourself up to it,
Well, if it finances my next film, I'll take it.
It probably will. I'm just saying, go for it. Are you guys releasing this as a score or anything? Like, is this going to be available, like the score soundtrack with those weird sounds layered in? Like, is that something?
It's the conversation is ongoing. We haven't fully decided exactly how, but we're definitely not going to stay just with the music in the film. There's something more to it, and I know this is a conversation that with everything going on is pending. But I know that Jaako and I discussed a few ideas a while back, and there will be more. We're not done with those sounds for sure.
Okay. I'm just going to be jogging around the park to like the sounds of spatchcocking chickens with drum beats behind it.
There you go. There you go. That's it. That's the other market that we're taking over.
Yeah. So, what's your workout playlist? And then I just send the score to Sound of Violence.
It makes you want to run.
Yeah, right? Very, very
running
fast.
Away. What's your favorite track? Running Away from Alexis.
Yes. Nothing inspires cardio like the need to be the final girl and survive, So just.
Yeah, I mean, there's a scene obviously at the beginning of the film, or early on in the film rather, where it shows that going after Alexis doesn't really pay off either. So it's,
no, that's I just run in the other direction and pray that I can outrun her. But she looks very fit, so I got to work on that because I think she could catch me.
I'd love to take this moment to really pay tribute to Jasmine. She, and really James mentioning her as a reason why he jumped on is absolute testament to how lucky I was to have her as the lead. She is a force to be reckoned with, and she embodied Alexis and made her. I don't think it's something which really. I remember the first time I met her, I felt I had met Alexis, but also like actually, and that applies to James and to Lily as well. The attention to the details, to those characters that these three have like given as far as like the way they speak, the way they are was extremely helpful. I mean, I'm not a native English speaker, so it's, you know, I can write my script in a readable way, but obviously to turn it into a deliverable sentence, it was great to work with them to bounce it back and forth until it sounded a little bit more natural without losing what we wanted to say, but with a sort of eloquence that fitted them as beings. And that's something which I'm very, very, very grateful for.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, like she's terrifying in it, which is like she has like you love her and you're like, okay, I can kind of understand, but not in a way where I'm like, I side with you and I feel for you. It's just I understand that that was the extent of it. But also I'm just like, oh God, you're so like unassumingly terrifying. Like are not fucking around.
Those
Like you are
eyes.
scary.
It's always
It
the
was so
quiet ones.
it was so confusing too, because I wasn't like at the shoot, but at the rap party after watching intensely James and everybody acting, and then seeing them in person, I was like, I could, because I couldn't separate that actors from the characters in that moment. Like especially Alexis was like, or Jasmine was like, it was a little bit like intimidating to talk to.
Yeah.
Just watch your drink at the rap party, you know.
I can imagine. And
and
also
stay
it's
away from hops.
yeah. Oh God, that scene was intense. But it was really cool to see a woman be so brutal because and just for it was really for selfish reasons. I feel like anytime we see a woman on screen being brutal and violent, it's usually has to do with kind of like a revenge or something like along those lines, and that's the motivation for this. She was doing this for selfish reasons, just kind of chasing the dragon and would really just willing to do anything to get that and what she wanted and just pushing the envelope and pushing the envelope until you're just like looking at her like this is like maniacal, like this is wild.
I love that you're saying that because it's, you know, um, I feel that very often um, female villains are portrayed more due to them being women than just for whatever reasons. And I think male antagonists tend to be always like, okay, well, you know, everything's fine. We don't need to justify anything. We can do anything. And but you see, I grew up surrounded by inspiring and powerful women, none of them murderous. And also, I'm the father to two daughters. So when this story came to mind and I wrote this character in all she is, I just couldn't fathom having a man there. And it was important. And I know that mattered a lot to Jasmine as well, because for very many reasons in the traits of the character, she didn't want any cliche. And she saw that that I did this really with care. And the one thing that I didn't want is her being a woman somehow being related to what she's doing, because it's not the point.
Right. Yeah.
She is dealing with her trauma through art. Art is generally our creative impetus is a neurosis that doesn't have a gender. It's a drive, and I find it very interesting how we tend to over justify the reasons behind a female antagonist versus a male one. And I wanted to just not have to do that such justification. I just wanted her to be herself and live her truth in that crazy story. And everything that she experienced as a child carrying on forward, again, this is just her pushing for her own drive to deliver her masterpiece. And yeah, I think it mattered to me a lot. And as I said, with two daughters, I had no right to mess it up.
Yeah, I love that. But not in a way of like, and you too can grow up to do this, you know? Not.
I mean, I can write a cover-up story.
There you go. He's already thinking about it.
I'm not ruling it out.
She was a very cool female villain, and also the fact that she's kind of like a genius. You know what I mean? Like she's just fucking smart. So then this comes to play in things, but it's just part of her character. It just is. So then
Yeah.
she's doing these certain things and can concoct these different kinds of scenarios and things, but you're like, well, she's just really fucking smart. So she's able to do this kind of stuff. Like for me, that was all the explanation I needed for some of the setups. I was like, well, clearly she's just kind of a genius, basically.
But also the setups are remarkably simple. Like the distribution of, the relationship to a controller to I often say, go back to your Lego Technics, the one that were animated, and see what you could do then. Now, just yes, this is industrial a little, but it's all very human scaled, and I made a point of that, and it's still getting questioned, and I get it because it's still something unexpected, but the nature of what's happening in all this contraption is actually pretty. I'm not going to call it sensible, but I'm just going to say that it has a realm of possibility on the outside chance. And as far as the crafting and somebody who maneuvers instruments a lot, they know the inside of those instruments. So I don't know. There will be questions, but I do feel that if Jigsaw can have industrial size contraption on a deathbed, I think Alexis can be given the benefit of the doubt on her
I
amazing
agree with that.
creativity.
I did not feel that I could just go and make it myself, like a DIY kind of thing. That's just not
But you
where
can.
you know what? Thank you for having that faith in me. It's just not like my level of where my skill set typically is. Maybe I could teach myself to do it, but it wasn't out of the realm of possibility to me that she was able to do that. Like that was not unrealistic to me at all. Any of the contraptions she was using, I was like, what she's into. This is literally her life's passion. She knows like instruments inside and out. She has a little bit of knowledge about this other stuff. That makes sense that she could do that. I don't think I could build that in a day. Maybe someone could like help me out and I could YouTube some videos of how to make this, but it wasn't unbelievable to me. Like it made sense that she would have this.
And that was an interesting part of that we never got to really explore. There was a scene at one point that just didn't make into it was unfortunately slowing down the movie too much, but it was explaining as well, reminding her that as an orphan, that's all she did was playing with instruments. And it just the capacity of one teaching themselves so much, because it's a fair amount of time between the opening, the prologue, and the moment when we rejoin her. So, but I don't know. I also think that the ability, and this is the importance as well of the relationship with Mary, is that they live in this music experimental world of the university. So all their life is about experimenting with music. And I have to say I feel there's so much more that I had to cut from the script because it would have been a 2.5 hour version with a lot more experiments and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know. I have to say I kind of, when I started to write that character and the kind of contraption she was developing, I had a moment of like, okay, you know what? Take the handbrake off. Let's go.
Yeah.
and we had a lot of fun, and that's why having Jasmine really ready for the ride and really ready to just kind of give it all that presence, and then the dynamic of having Lily being an unwitting partner in the experimentation, not knowing everything it takes, and then Duke arriving on the scene as an unwitting antagonist, and it's like kind of like I have to say this is it's just like the belief and commitment I got from all the actors, and it was really what kind of hopefully made it work.
Yeah. No, it all worked together really, really wonderfully and disturbingly. So Robert, did you have a favorite effect in this without giving something away?
Um,
Or maybe the finale?
Perfect timing. All the neighbors' dogs were losing their minds. So, but it looks like whatever had them going is done. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Anyway, um, I had a favorite effect narratively, and I had a favorite effect as far as experience.
Okay.
The the scene with an audience. James was there. Um, Lily was there. I don't want to go into too many specifics, but that was my favorite on-set day because everyone was having a lot of fun. Everyone behind the camera when they were watching that footage, our producer Hanu almost vomited when he was watching.
That's got to make you feel great.
You know, I've been doing this a long time, but I'm still a child. Like when I see someone have a visceral reaction to something, you know, it's like, oh, this is. And so I had a lot of fun, and I think we all did. Plus, again, all the actors brought it, and the actress who was experiencing that scene was just the biggest trooper. And that goes for everyone. I think narratively, the end is my favorite, only because I do the same thing in so many movies. Like I get a script and it's slit throat, or I get a script and it's zombie shot to the head. I got this script and that was something I had never seen. And like we said, there's something where like you get asked that question, can we do it? You're like, yeah. But that also means that I get to do something I've never done. I get to see something I've never seen. And we shot that particular sequence exterior at a location. And although we were able to shut down that location so other people couldn't be there, there weren't really like giant walls. So it was this entire thing of trying to keep people from seeing. We didn't want anyone taking photos, so it was very clandestine. And it was just an epic experience and something really special to see. And it's weird because in effects it either looks even more epic on set, or you know someone spends a week trying to fix it in post. And this is one of those things where as ugly and messed up as it is in the movie, when you can sit there and see it and touch it, it was a very intense day, or a very intense experience. Plus,
You've never seen extras act so well in shock and disgust.
It's because they weren't acting.
If I remember, you were very clear to say, you know, something intense is going to come out of there. I'm not going to tell you what. So when they saw what was going on, that was the first time they had any idea what they were in for, right? With a lot of the actors or the actors. Yeah.
One guy kept praying. I'm actually not joking. It just like every time that happened, it just like literally, and it was a. I mean, again, can't say anything, but yes, it's not something that. It appears that those who experience it get to never forget it, and sorry, not sorry. I mean, I just, you know, that scene was, it came out of a dream. It's a scene that I literally dreamt up. It was a moment where I had a different finale for the script. I was like, that didn't work because it just felt like an addition to what we had done before. Tried to just one up what we had done before and finishing on something which was, you know, again, just didn't feel like it was giving a sort of twist to it. And yeah, after being stuck for a little bit, I dreamt that up, and yep, I just I that call when I made a drawing of it, and I sent it first to Hannu, who was not sure what he was looking at, but then just like this is there's something crazy to this, and then I sent it to Robert, and he soon after sent me his version of the drawing, and I was like, yeah, you get it. And it was just for reference, when I draw something, my father might be a painter and my grandfather too. I didn't inherit their skill. So when I draw something, it is akin to the drawings of a possessed child. So I'm sure, again, there's a market for that, but it's like it's very sort of, yeah, it's a bit childish, but it's the idea of like trying to create some, like to have standout details. And that was fun. It was a fun conversation to send that to Robert and just kind of and just say, are you can we?
I gotta say that we worked a lot on the sonics of that specific scene, but looking at the end result, it's the dream-like feel really comes through. Like it almost feels like a dream sequence. So it's pretty cool. Like I think there's that eeriness and the kind of like, not irrationality, but something that kind of, you know, when you're seeing a dream, it's a little like loose, you know, and like
Yes.
it has that little like, it's not too explained. It's kind of things are happening, and so there's something that reminds me, now that you mentioned that you had it in a dream, that it has a feel of how you know, sometimes when you remember the dream, how you remember it, kind of like that little, there's a slight distance to it, which is pretty awesome now in retrospect.
Like that sort of like disjointed, like, wait, is this happening? Is this not happening? Like back, like remembering a dream, you said. Like
Exactly.
as you're talking about on set, seeing the effect and like how that was playing and people's reactions to it, like the score is so prevalent in that part and such a piece of it. So I was like trying to imagine what that would be like seeing that without the score, because the only way that I've experienced it is everything layered all together, and it very much has like that weird dreamlike quality where I was like, wait, is this actually happening or is this a fantasy? Oh fuck, it's actually happening. Awesome.
I mean, you know, it's just a casual Tuesday dream.
Yeah, easy. And I like that you don't call it even, it's not a nightmare, it's just a dream. Most people would be like, that's a fucking nightmare.
Well, it's because it was more of a vision, right? It's like, it's
Yeah.
not something I was kind of at the center of. I was in no danger. And so it was a twisted vision.
Poor Lily. Yeah.
But it's a very I don't know. It's funny. So like, I, you know, long story short, but when I transitioned from documentaries to horror, I was still intent on producing, and it's only when I started writing that I was told, no, you got to direct, because you're writing visually, you're writing what you see, you're writing everything as a shot list almost. Actually, Handu calls my script very often. He says they're like shot lists with dialogues, and so having things coming out of dreams or random visions or things like that is perhaps consistent with that, and that's you know what drove me to switch chair and become and take, you know, because I've been a producer for 17 years now.
Oh,
And
wow.
okay. But I got to be a rookie again, and I still am. I'm still learning the craft of being a visual storyteller, and yeah, but a short and a feature down, and I'm pretty excited about the kind of stuff I'm working on now as well. So
Does that mean there's more stuff coming up where we can expect you to
no,
direct?
that's it. I've retired.
And
That's
I'm
it.
done. That's it. That was
I'm
my
done.
one.
Yeah, that's my one. Next up, I'm taking up sculptures.
Oh, excited to see what those nightmarish things look like.
No, actually, no, but I can tell you that what I'm working on next doesn't involve music. It will have a kick-ass score, guaranteed.
Okay.
But I think between the trilogy that is 808, Conductor, and Sound of Violence is there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll have music driving everything I do next, but not in the story this time.
We've talked a little bit in the past about you're a big Clockwork Orange fan, right? Okay. So we've like bonded about that before, and there is a scene that we've mentioned in this movie that very much had Clockwork Orange elements to it, or at least when I was watching it, and
I mean that's up to interpretation.
okay. Well, looking forward to see more of that coming.
I mean, you know, this film has built in a love letter to so many influences. Clockwork Orange for sure, Battle Royale, Misery, Scanners. I just wanted to create my own narrative, but just thank all the filmmakers that have influenced me. Um, Also, the music has many influences, and that was so much fun with Jaako when we were going through, you know, Massive Attack and Aphex Twin and all those amazing artists, and we were just and I have to say, just I feel all warm and fuzzy thinking about this conversation with Jaako, because we were like, and Alex as well, like I just felt like that when we got some musical reference to kind of vibe around, we just all referred to it, and yeah, I just it's my first film as my first feature film as a director, and yeah, I just wanted to be a little bit of an experimental opus that is a good summary of who I am, and may the audience judge me for it.
As an audience member who's watched it twice, I will say achieved on my end at least. And I just
I
like
have to
to
say,
imagine.
your sentence, your review, the title of your review, when you called the film "A Marquis de Sade for the Digital Generation," I was like,
Squeal.
yeah, I really appreciate it, really, really, really do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But that's honestly what it felt like. Like I was just like I just like one of those ones where I'm like sitting with it for a minute and I'm like I'm feeling so many things, I have so many words that I'm not able to even like make like sentences because it's just right now like just like visions in my head of all like this horrific things that iconic things that I've just watched on screen. And then that's what came up and I was like that feels like a perfect embodiment of this and who this is.
Well, it was soon. It was pretty soon after the South by that you published that, and I have to say, just this is one of the headlines that just kind of like it made me feel that okay, I I you somebody I feel seen, and in a good way, and it's it's always a risk to put out an experimental movie, of course, but yeah, this kind of feedback I would really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for making a really fun movie. And there's so many things in here that I wish I could like cosplay. Like that final scene. I'm like, I would love to cosplay that. I can't fucking that's way too
We said that.
extensive.
Robert, we said that. We said
Yeah.
that. We said that. If the movie gets popular, so everybody should watch it because it's a cosplay competition coming for sure.
Yeah. Cosplayers out there who are like legit, like you're gonna have some major inspiration from this. I just personally am not able to pull off that final one that I would love to do.
And I will throw something out there. There's an Easter egg in the movie for Chopping Mall, and I will just say that like I believe that in one of the countries that we're releasing, there will be some Blu-rays. I have to say the first person to reach out to me with correctly identifying the Chopping Mall Easter egg, I'll send them I'll get them and send them a copy of the Blu-ray happily.
Nice.
If it comes out, if not, I'll get them a copy of something. But it just like but yeah, that would be fun because I have to say that Easter egg is well planted. It's not easy to find, but if you do find it, it should.
I'm trying to think of what it is myself now.
It's the less you remember, the better. No spoilers.
Wait, is Robert allowed to enter the competition?
No.
Is Jed Shepard allowed to enter the competition?
No, because well, he should really, but it's that Jed is such a sport. He doesn't want to see it before it comes out in the UK. So, but yeah, it just I wonder if he's going to be even if he's going to spot it.
My money is on yes. I'm thinking yeah.
Fair enough. Jed, if you're listening, here's your challenge.
Yeah. Your challenge, should you choose to accept it. He's already emailing you the answer right now.
Yeah. I've not seen the film, but I know it's there.
Yeah, he's like, he's like, yes, I know what it was because you said this one sentence one time and I know what it is.
sounds like Jed.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thank you so much. It was so cool to chat with you. Really, like, just watching this movie, it was, like, weird in all the best possible ways, and the sound and the effects and everything was just so awesome coming together that I'm excited that I got to talk to you all, like, collectively. And James, I'm
Thank
so
you
glad
so
we
much.
got to hear from you as well.
Hey, I'm sorry I was so late. I'm glad I got to at least At least get in for the last 20 minutes. So
Sir,
sorry
you
about
have haunted me with the spatchcocking of the chicken. Like that is seriously just
that.
replaying in my
Next
head.
time you got to joint a chicken, just think of Sound of Violence. That's all I got to say.
I will forever think of you, James, whilst
I,
spatchcocking chickens.
the Sound of Violence cookbook is coming up.
Ooh. You've got like 10 offshoots now, you know? You've
That's
got
it.
so many
I'm
your
taking
ASMR
over.
cookbooks. That's
Yeah.
it.
Sound of Violence taking over the world.
All right, everyone check out Sound of Violence is going to be available digitally on demand May 21st. That is very soon. Check out make sure you keep your eyes peeled for the chopping mall Easter egg.
Good luck.
All right, if you guys are not subscribed to Fangoria, get on that, fangoria.com. You can find me at horrorgirlproblems.com. Where can we find you all?
At Alex Noyer. So my name
Okay.
in one word. And the film is At Her Music Kills in one word.
Her Music Kills.
Her
Nice.
Music Kills.
You can find me on at Beats and Styles Music.
At Beat and Styles Music?
Beats and Styles Music.
Beats and Styles Music. Okay. Robert?
Bravo FX. The website's www.bravofx.net. And social media is just Robert M. Bravo.
Alrighty. And how about you, James?
I'm not on any social medias, but I can be found through Framework Entertainment. You can contact my manager, Alan. I'm always up for a chat.
All right. Okay, thank you guys so much. I'm so excited for everyone to go and see this so I can like talk about things that I haven't been able to really talk about yet. Somebody messaged me to talk about this. I'm dying to talk about this movie. Go watch it and then hit me up on Twitter. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right, wonderful to see you.